like I said, so when I got introduced to for the first time to Islam, it was through the Nation of Islam, and it was this brother that I had met, right? And so I remember standing at the facility there on Haley and Garden Street, and they had assigned me to be at the front of the entrance. That was my assignment for the day, to make sure who people come in were people that should be coming in. And I remember thinking then, in my own mind, in my own heart, we have to establish a masjid here in Santa Barbara. I don't know how, I don't know when, but it's got to be part of my destiny. That's the way I felt about it. That's how deep I felt in my belief. So I used to go down to, we didn't have any place to go here. That was it for us. But I remember that every so often we would drive down to Los Angeles to go to Juma, to where all the brothers would gather, and they were all African Americans. I was the only Latino man. I go, what am I doing here? And I go, but you know what? I don't care. My whole life I've been listening and acting on what white folks have said was right. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to listen to the other side, which is black folks. Mm-hmm. And so what? So that's the way I used to deal with it, and that's the way I lived it. So I did that for many years, and then I kind of slid away from Islam for a while because the place of prayer here in Santa Barbara closed. Mm-hmm. Things started to turn into turmoil down in Los Angeles with the Nation of Islam. So I kind of just stayed away from it all.
And what year was this?
This had to be probably, it wasn't, I didn't stay away long, but it had to be probably in the 90, maybe 95, 90. But even though, I wasn't going down to LA anymore, and there was nothing here in Santa Barbara that I knew of, I was still doing the best I could with what I had learned, right? And then 9/11 happened.
I was here for that.
Yeah. And just before 9/11, everything started changing in this country towards supporting Islam. They would even report about Ramadan coming on and that. And then 9/11 happened, man, and I said, oh, this is not good. Mm-hmm. But it did turn out good for me, because I was watching the news, and they said in the news that there was going to be a representative of the Islamic Society of Santa Barbara who was going to be speaking at the County Board of Supervisors. I didn't even know there was an Islamic Society in Santa Barbara up until then. Hmm. And then I says, man, I'm going down there. I got to go listen to this. So I went to the County Board of Supervisors hearing, and that's where I met all the brothers that are, with it. A lot of them are gone, but I met the Imam Rahman, and I went down there, and after they made their presentation, I introduced myself to them, and they told me where they were meeting and who was meeting and everybody. So man, that was it. That was the beginning of my coming back. But then the best part of it for me was that I learned through Brother Rahman, through his lessons that he would give every week, which I attended, weekly. He started teaching. He taught about the true Islam and the way that you should worship, and the prayers and the way you pray and all that. And that was, so I came back into Islam through that in 2011, in 2001, and been involved with it ever since, and will stay involved. And the real good thing about for me was that I was able to introduce to the Islamic Society the way that you need to run a nonprofit, because of my experience running the nonprofit.
With Zona Seca?
Yeah, with Zona Seca.
Yeah.
So in fact, a lot of the documents that we use now at the Islamic Society are documents that I used from here, but only changed it and put the name Islamic Society on them, so that we could keep good records of our minutes, of our meetings, of our financial situation, the financial documents that we use, that Sister Norma is in charge of. So that's how I've come. That's my little story that I can tell about my involvement in it. But when when I found out that we had land, then I thought, well, if we have the land already, maybe we can build a masjid on it. And everybody had been talking about, we need to build a masjid, we need to build a. And of course, Brother Hamdani, who's our chairman, he brought us all together, and he says, okay, we're going to need to build a masjid. And from the time that I sat on that corner thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to somehow we got to build a masjid in this town, to that moment, I said, this is it. This is where we're going to be able to do what I've always wanted us to happen in Santa Barbara. And it happened on my little journey going through. But this agency itself, Zona Seca, is a product of Islam. That's why I left for a while here, went into the insurance business and established my own insurance agency. Left here for about 10 or 11 years. Did pretty good in the insurance industry. But then things changed in the industry, and then this agency was starting to flutter. It was going to be losing its funding. And I still had relationships with the county, and they called me at my office in insurance and asked me to meet with them. And they said, look, if you need to get back involved with Zona Seca, because if you don't, we're going to close it down. It's not doing well. So I got on the board of directors of Zona Seca and started working to reestablish the agency, so that it wouldn't lose its funding. And then later on, when I decided to leave the insurance business and just go back to Zona Seca, it was because I knew that the establishment of Zona Seca was Islam, so I couldn't let it fall. And if I was the one that was selected to help bring it back, then there was no choice for me, man. I had to come back and get it reestablished, and that's what I did. So, but it's all in Allah's hands. It was His guidance and strength that helped me do this. I'm totally humbled to that, because I know it. I lived it. How you share that with people, it's difficult to do that. You can't just go out and sit down, hey, I want to share something with you. You can't do that. The moment has to be right, I think, to be able to do that. So that's, but